So we can look at precipitation patterns. So this is the amount of rainfall that we see. And one pattern that we tend to see that is based upon that convection cell idea is that deserts generally occur away from the equator about 30 degrees. So when we look at deserts located at 30 degrees latitude, north and south from the equator. So if we look at that convection cell again, we can see that these winds right here are hot and wet. And then the sun actually causes, because of the increased solar radiation, it causes evaporation. And as that rises, it also causes rainfall. So we call the equatorial place the equatorial low pressure. And as the sun heats it up, it increases the pressure. And the air flows always from a high to a low pressure. So you see that it's flowing in this direction because it flows towards the low pressure. So at 30 degrees, we tend to get the air being depleted of moisture, and it will sink down. And this is where we find the deserts in that part of, say, for example, North America. So that would be like Arizona and Nevada and California, those areas of that big desert. We also see this in Africa, which is at about 30 degrees south of the equator. So this explains some patterns of precipitation, but more locally, we also have a type of precipitation pattern, which is called, so this one is due to convection cells. So we'll put due to convection cells. We also see patterns of precipitation due to the landscape at a more finer level. So we have what are called orographic deserts. And this generally, you probably have heard of this referred to as the rain shadow. So the rain shadow on one side of a mountain range. So this explains much in terms of Oregon geography, where we have the Cascade Mountains, and on one side of the Cascade Mountains, it's very wet. On the other side of the Cascade Mountains, we have the high desert, like Bend, Oregon, for example. So if we look at this pattern, we see that as the air has to rise, just like it did at the equator, it's going to have to get rid of the moisture. So as it rises, it's going to release moisture down. And so this cool, dry air is what we find on the other side of the mountains. And this creates desert-like environments. So we have rain shadows. So this is another example of how we can look at the landscape and the system to determine patterns of precipitation distribution on our planet.